And welcome to The Hill here on NewsNation. I'm Blake Berman. Two fascinating scenes in the Midwest, in the state of Michigan tonight. We were just listening live to the vice president, the Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, on the attack, taking it right to Donald Trump, perhaps maybe thinking she needs to make up some ground in a state that is now a 50-50 split, according to Decision Desk HQ. On the other end, Donald Trump live in Michigan right now as well, speaking at a town hall there, sitting back, calmly, listening, feeling somewhat in his element, maybe confident, you might say. The two candidates in Michigan tonight, we begin once again with Donald Trump, live in Auburn Hills, just outside of Detroit.
We're not going to have them building them in other countries, sending them into the United States, taking all those jobs. So I've been announcing it, and I've been talking about it, and I saw the gentleman that builds the plants, because I was here a couple of weeks ago at the Detroit conference, as you know, and it was really the auto conference. And so I look in the audience, and there he is, the man that builds the plants. And I said, could I see you a minute before the speech? And after the speech, I saw him, and I said, so how is that plant doing? He said, sir, they've decided not to build. I said, why? He said, because I think you're going to be elected, and if you put tariffs, on, so think of it. And that was easy. I didn't even do anything other than say, I'm telling you, the man said it right over here. It's the most beautiful word in the dictionary. You have other words that are damn nice, like love, but I tell you, I think it's more beautiful than love, the word tariff. And so here it works, Brian, here it works without even doing anything. They thought there was a chance, and they're not going to spend $2 billion on building a plant and then have, Trump get elected and put 200%. And if that wasn't enough, I'd raise it. And again, the higher it goes, the more likely it is that they build in this country. But think of it. So they stopped this giant plant just on the basis. Now, if I don't get elected, they will start it up as sure as you're sitting there. Mm-hmm. These people have no clue. She has no clue what she's doing. She wants to raise everybody's taxes. She's a disaster. And other than that, I like her quite a bit, right? But no, I don't care even about just like somebody has to come in. We did great the first time. We did better the second time. As everybody knows, we got millions of more votes. And frankly, if I didn't, and some bad things happened, and let's not talk about it, because we're going to make up for it this time, too big to rig. But I will tell you, if I didn't do well the second time, I wouldn't have done it. But I watched Biden and her, and now especially her, because she's worse than Biden. I watched them, and I said, I got to run again. I got to run again. That's what happened, because they said they're ruining our country with the open border. I mean, 8,000, the drug dealers, 8,000 drug dealers, 13,099 murderers in jail. They're going to let them out of jail. Some with death penalties. They're just going to say, well, this is easier. We'll just send them to the United States because their people don't know what. But think of 13,000 plus people who murdered people, and they're going to be let free in our country. And then you have their prisons are being emptied up, like Venezuela. They're emptying up their prisons. Their crime is down 72% in Venezuela. If they get elected, we're all friends. If they get elected, we'll all meet next year in Venezuela, because it'll be the safest country, because they've emptied out. And let me tell you, it was a very unsafe country. Caracas, you couldn't walk across the street. It's sort of like some of our cities are getting, right? Our cities are getting like that. So just the thought of me getting elected stopped somebody from destroying the rest of Detroit, from destroying the state of Michigan's auto industry. And with your auto industry, so goes Michigan. I mean, it's a big deal. And we're going to reverse that very easily. He knows, because he's got a natural, when I explained it to him, so he's a business, he's a savant. Is that good? He's a savant. He knows. It took me about 2 minutes. After about 2 minutes, I get it. How long did it take you to understand the word tariff? 2 minutes or less?
From you, it took 2 minutes.
Yeah, it took very little. He figured it out very quickly. He wasn't exposed to it, frankly. He actually said, you mean you can really do that? He couldn't believe it. And we have another one, Paulson. He sort of was...
He's got it, too.
He can't even sleep at night. He's so excited about it. But they have to be... And then we have stupid people that don't know, they say, tariff. But they're very stupid people. We have a senator from Pennsylvania who decided not to run. He fought me all the way on tariffs. This guy fought me and fought me. His name's Toomey. He fought me, and I wouldn't endorse him, and he decided not to run based on that, and that's good because all he did was, I said, so if China charges 100%, can we, for a similar product, charge them 100%? No, sir. Okay. Can we charge them 50% or 25%? No, sir. Why? It's not free trade. I said, explain that. I said, can we charge them 10%, 2%, or 1%? No, sir, it's not free trade. I said, you gotta be kidding. And I said, I wouldn't endorse you under any circumstances. Now, I don't know if he really believed this or, because he's not a stupid guy. Did he really believe this or was there something else going on? But anyway, so we're gonna bring back the auto industry, but also, Tim, a lot of other industries. You know, this pertains to many. We talk about cars because it's so nice to talk about cars. You know, it's sort of the ultimate thing to manufacture. But we're going to bring back a lot of industry, and it's going to be great. Fantastic presentation. We appreciate it from everybody. And is that your father over there? Who is that guy, though, the good-looking guy? Is he your father with that shirt on? I like that color. I'm going to wear a couple of them now, I think I've got such support from the Teamsters, I'm going to have to wear that, I think. But I want to thank everybody. And again, support. Always you've been with me, and I appreciate it very much, Jim. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, everybody, this concludes our town hall. Thank you so much for being here. President Trump, thank you.
All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. I'm Blake Berman. We've been listening live to Donald Trump there in Michigan just before us, listening live to the Vice President Kamala Harris in Michigan. Welcome back here to the Hill. Thanks for being with us on this Friday night. A fascinating scene, what we just saw in one of the key 7 battleground states. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris speaking at the exact same time in 2 totally different tones, 2 totally different scenes, I guess you could say. Harris very much on the attack, trying to take it to Donald Trump. Trump sitting back in his element, answering questions, and he spoke for the better part, or at least was involved for the better part of an hour. Our Robert Sherman is live in the great state of Michigan tonight. Robert, when Donald Trump was talking, and I was watching him there a little bit, I've covered him since day one. I was there in Trump Tower when he came down the escalators, and I looked at my producer and I said, he is in his element. He is going to let this thing run. And that's exactly what he did. A much different contrast to Kamala Harris tonight, who was sort of on message, on point, and on the attack.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, Blake, and it really underscores the fact that you have both of these campaigns who are really putting a premium on the state of Michigan. 15 highly coveted electoral votes that are up for grabs here. And then I think there's a few other observations to make. On the one hand, you have former President Trump, big rally tonight in downtown Detroit. On the other hand, for Vice President Kamala Harris, her big event is in the suburbs of Detroit. If those roles seem reversed, Republicans in the cities, Democrats in the suburbs, well, in many cases they are. And there are some polling metrics which indicate that the former president really outperforming in some of these urban areas, particularly in the battleground states. That's what the Trump campaign believes is key to their path to victory, expanding the electorate there. On the other hand, for Vice President Kamala Harris, you're seeing her with a big event in the suburbs tonight. Well, things look pretty neck and neck in a lot of these battleground suburbs. That's where they believe their path to victory runs. And you've heard so much of the messaging here, Blake. Focus on jobs, focus on industry, focus on inflation, and especially, we're in Michigan, the automotive industry. Take a listen for yourself.
Yep.
His track record for the auto industry was a disaster. American automakers announced the closure of 6 auto plants when he was president.
I wasn't going to let any car come into the United States and destroy the Michigan automobile business.
And voting is already underway here in Michigan. Over 940,000 absentee ballots have already been cast. In-person early voting begins in Detroit tomorrow, and then a week from tomorrow, it goes live across the state. Blake?
Robert Sherman live for us in the battleground state of Michigan tonight. Robert, thank you. Come on in. Scott Traynor, he is the data science director with our friends over at Decision Desk HQ. Scott, hello. Happy Friday. Thanks for being with us here on the Hill. Michigan, you guys have this not 51-49, not 52-48. You have this dead 50-50. Why?
Look, the polls have been tightening over the last month. It's a state that Joe Biden won by just tens of thousands of votes. This one's coming down to the wire, and we're also seeing this in other Midwestern states, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So this is all part of a trend.
If this is part of a trend, and we see both of them in the same state tonight, project out, if you can, the next 18 days. Who's got the better trend line here, and do you have a sense of where this goes?
Projections, right? Those are always fun. Look, at the end of the day, if you're a campaign, you want to be on the front of a trend. And there, Donald Trump has a little bit of a trend. It's going in his direction, a few percentage points on the forecast average as well as the polling average. So right now, I'd rather be him. But look, 18 days to go, the trend can reverse. And I think that's why you're seeing them both there, trying to stem the tide. And they're going to spend a lot of time up in the Rust Belt. Fun fact for you, whoever wins Michigan, 75% chance of being the next president.
All right, 75% chance. Wow, high number. Scott Traynor, data science director over at DDHQ. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
You got it. All right, over now to the biggest swing state of them all, Pennsylvania. And is there a sign tonight signaling there could be trouble for Democrats? I want you to listen to this. The longtime Democratic Senator Bob Casey, he has a new ad out today. He's a Democrat. And the ad talks positively about Donald Trump, and it distances Casey from President Biden. Watch.
He's independent.
That's right.
Casey's leading the effort to stop corporate greedflation and price gouging. Casey bucked Biden to protect fracking, and he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
Joining me now here on the Hill, Kelly Meyer, NewsNation Washington correspondent. Lauren Wright is a NewsNation political contributor, and so too is Chris Hahn, former senior aide to Senator Schumer. Thank you all for being here. We're listening to Donald Trump, Kamala Harris live. Kelly, you're at the White House. PA is your home state. I'm watching that ad from Bob Casey today, and I'm going, wait a minute. Pro-Trump, distances from Biden? Is that a Democrat or a Republican running that ad? I know it's a Democrat. I wonder what it signals across that state as you see it.
Yeah, and this is consistent with the concern we're seeing across Pennsylvania. Harris' lead there is shrinking in recent weeks, and the race is now neck and neck in that state, similar to what Scott Traynor was saying about Michigan. We know they are moving folks from D.C. up to PA to help with the campaign there. But some of them tell me that's part of the problem because they have D.C. Beltway folks going up there and not listening to people on the ground or from Philadelphia or from across Pennsylvania. And we see her try to run up the number with Republicans, like we saw this week in Bucks County, or with white women in the suburbs to make up for losing specifically support from black voters, which she still needs that turnout in the big cities like Philly to win the nation's biggest battleground. And right now the campaign may not have the confidence that they can do that. And that's why you're seeing things like that ad that you saw, Blake.
Han, he's a three-term senator running for a fourth term. And I just wonder, as we saw Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in Michigan, Pennsylvania is the biggest prize of the 7 key swing states. What is Bob Casey seeing that he's using the words independent, distancing himself from Biden, pro-Trump, and never mentions Kamala Harris?
He's seen a close race. I don't think he should run away from Kamala Harris, because if the election's about who's further from Kamala Harris, he won't win. Right? So I think that he wants to say that it'll work with anybody. I think that's what he's trying to say in that ad. He has appeared with Vice President Harris several times already. And look, I think that the analysis comes down to this. Who is going to get their voters to the polls? Pennsylvania is a closely divided state. Who has an organization that's going to get their voters out? I think that the Democrats have an organization to get people out to the polls in Pennsylvania, as they do in Michigan, as they do in Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and North Carolina. I see no evidence of a real turnout organization in those states. Let's stop talking about the margin of error. These are 50-50 states. Let's start talking about the margin of effort. Who's going to do the work the next 18 days to get their voters to vote? That's what's going to decide this election.
Lauren, what's he seeing, you think?
Well, he happens to be ahead, by the way, so I think it's very savvy. And when you see a Democrat put out a pro-fracking, pro-tariff ad, that's very telling to me. I love listening to Scott on this stuff because he's just so responsible, and really with a margin like this, you can't tell. However, fracking is a huge issue, and the damage is done there for Harris. In the north and west parts of the state, it's just common sense. If someone tells you, even a few years ago, hey, we're going to get rid of all of your jobs, but don't worry, we'll retrain you in the new green economy. We don't know how to pay for it. We don't know when. We don't know how. But trust us, we're going to do that. And then a couple of years later, they say, never mind, never really said that, never really meant that. Of course, you're baseline mistrustful of that person. I think she also made a mistake with Josh Shapiro. He's someone else who campaigns on cutting taxes and is very popular in the state. So I do think she's lost some opportunities there. I don't know if there's enough ground for her to make up.
Han, you might want to close your eyes, close your ears, turn away from the TV for a second, roll it.
In game 3, Fry, deep drive, left field, Fry's watching, it is a walk-off home run! David Fry lights up the Cleveland night!
All right, so that was the Cleveland Guardians catcher David Fry, the game-winning walk-off home run last night, 10th inning. The Yankees giving up 2 runs, both the 9th and the 10th inning, to lose Game 3 of the ALCS. Why am I talking about this, and why am I tormenting Han? We know every October you need a closer if you are going to win the World Series. Every October, bar none, you need a closer. But every 4 years, do you need a closer to win the White House? And here's why I ask. Today, we learned that Michelle Obama is set to campaign with Kamala Harris next weekend in Michigan. That will be the first time that happens. Also today, Donald Trump suggested that Nikki Haley could come out on the campaign trail for him. Watch.
In the last 18 days, will you call her and say, come out with me?
Yeah, I'll do what I have to do. I beat her by a number that nobody ever heard, by 50 points or something. And then they say, oh, when is Nikki coming back in? Nikki is in. Nikki is helping us already.
Han, since I tormented you, I'll start with you first. Michelle Obama, Nikki Haley down the stretch, what, if anything, does it mean?
You know, first of all, I spent all day trying to get over that home run. All day, Blake. Okay? Thanks for bringing that back up. But thank God there's another game in 2 hours. But look, indeed, I don't believe popularity is transferable. And I don't believe the protest vote that went to Nikki Haley was really about Nikki Haley. I think it was actually about a protest vote against Donald Trump. And if you want to talk about things to worry about, I would worry about that a lot. I don't think Harris gets all of those votes, but some of those votes stay home, and some of those votes will go to Harris. So I think that's something that the Trump campaign should be very concerned about. But I don't think bringing Haley out helps with that. But as for a closer in the game, you need a closing message when you're running for president. I don't think Barack Obama coming out, I don't think Nikki Haley coming out, or anybody else is going to seal the deal for somebody. But you need the message that brings it home and ties together the reason why people will believe that you will fight for them and not for yourself. And I think that's what Harris is doing right now.
Lauren, you've written books on celebrities and politics. These folks are celebrities in their own right. But I wonder what you make of this idea of Michelle Obama and possibly Nikki Haley in the final days.
Take it. You have to take these opportunities. I mean, just the eyeballs, especially that come with someone like Michelle Obama and her star power. Yeah, it's not going to persuade anyone necessarily, but it might remind them to get to the polls. And that's really the effect you're looking for in these final days.
Kelly, we're learning that Michelle Obama is with Vice President Harris next weekend in Michigan. Why do you think it's there?
Well, just as Scott Tranter was saying, it's close, and Trump has that lead over Harris right now. And not only is the concern with black voters in the state that she's trying to win over there, we're also still talking about the Arab American vote in those communities with the conflict between Israel and Hamas, that they still have a strong discontent for Harris and the Biden administration here and their handling of that. So she has a lot of ground to make up there. The uncommitted vote in that state, 100,000. Biden won it by 154,000. So there's a concern there in that state, and bringing Michelle Obama to a state like that may have some sway, and she's hoping that it does.
By the way, next Saturday, in Michigan, Michigan State at Michigan, 7:30 in the evening in the Big House. That is the biggest event, bar none, in that state every year. It'll be interesting to see how they end up planning that event and where they plan that event and at what time. Kelly Meyer, thank you very much for being with us. Chris, Lauren, I'll see you again in a few minutes. Thank you all. Still to come here on the Hill, the Catholic charity event that had Donald Trump doing a bit of stand-up.
You think this is easy, standing up here and doing this in front of half a room that hates my guts and the other half loves me?
The best and the worst jokes from the Al Smith dinner last night, and why wasn't Kamala Harris there? Plus, a live look at where Donald Trump is expected to speak later tonight as he campaigns throughout Michigan. Harris had a couple events there. This is now event 2 for Trump. I'm Blake Berman. Thanks for being with us on a Friday night. The Hill, back in a few.
These days, it's really a pleasure anywhere in New York without a subpoena for my appearance. Anytime I don't get a subpoena, I'm very happy. Unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself, but don't worry, he'll say that he was.
That was Donald Trump last night at the Alfred E. Smith Memorial Foundation dinner. It's a traditionally lighthearted campaign stop for both of the presidential candidates, but the vice president, Kamala Harris, did not attend in person, instead opting to campaign in Wisconsin. She did, however, send a pre-recorded video appearing alongside the comedian Molly Shannon.
Right now, I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say that I'm a Catholic, and tonight is one of the biggest dinners next to the Last Supper.
It is a very important dinner, and it's an important tradition that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Chris Hahn, Lauren Wright, back with me now here on the Hill. So one of the things about comedy that we love it, no matter what it is it's often funny because it's true. Right? And it's you say the thing out loud and it makes people laugh and all that. The MC, Jim Gaffigan, said this last night as part of his whole bit, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
I'm talking about the undecided voter. Are you kidding me? I mean, are you kidding me? You don't know who you're voting for? You don't see a difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Like, nobody has ever thought, wait, is that a Trump quote or a Harris quote?
Funny because it's true, right? Is he right there, Lauren? Like, at this point, there's just no more undecideds left, or do they actually exist? Polling says it's about 2%.
Well, they do exist. I mean, they're distracted with many other things on a day-to-day basis. And Chris and I were just talking a couple hours ago about people affected from the hurricanes in the last month. There's a real distraction there where they're not thinking at all about voting. And that could play out in a lot of political and logistical ways, harmful to both parties. But trust me, there are plenty of reasons why people don't have the voting booth on their mind. Yeah, I thought why Gaffigan was so effective is you can't really tell from his delivery. He's certainly not undecided, but you don't know which direction one way or another. I thought he was really fair and he did a good job. I watched it. I happened to really enjoy it.
Chris?
I agree with Lauren. There are people who have other things to do, right? In Michigan, there are a lot of people more concerned about the Wolverines than they are about the presidential race right now. And maybe that'll change on Election Day. We're all political junkies here. We think about this all the time. We spend our entire day thinking about it. But most Americans have to go about their lives. And even some people who are decided may not be hard decided. They may be decided today, but they might change their mind tomorrow because they find new information that they weren't really paying attention to. That's why elections are run, right? That's why you keep working until the last vote is cast. And look, I've said this before, I'll say it again. There's only one way to run, unopposed or scared, right? And you got to run scared or you're done, right? So if you know, I think both these candidates should be running scared right now, fighting for every vote, making their case right up to the last minute.
Chris Hahn, Lauren Wright, thank you for being with me here. Hahn, good luck to the Yankees tonight
I know Crisco watch
sort of laid it out
games
there.
now. He's put in a hard day of work.
He has indeed. Hope you stay with us, though, here on the Hill. Thank you both. Over the next 30 minutes or so, a high-speed chase along the southern border in Texas. Our Allie Bradley, have you seen this video? Our Allie Bradley on what happened there along the southern border with human smugglers and Texas law enforcement. There is a lot more to this video. You'll see it. And you just heard Lauren talk about North Carolina gearing up for early voting there as the state recovers from Hurricane Helene. We are speaking with the congressman in the hardest hit area when the Hill returns. Wow. Welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. A wild and dangerous scene in Texas along the southern border. Authorities there releasing this video today of a high-speed chase from Tuesday. A human smuggler, they say, led the chase, which ended in a crash, a foot pursuit, and an assault on an officer. Our NewsNation Southwest correspondent, Allie Bradley, joins us now from Eagle Pass, Texas, with what we know about this video and with what happened there. I watched the whole couple minutes of it, Allie, and it got dangerous for law enforcement. What are they telling you?
Yeah, you're exactly right here, Blake. Really a testament to what's going on down here in Texas. Things ramping back up when it comes to issues for law enforcement. That includes human and drug smuggling pursuits. Texas DPS just releasing that really shocking and wild video there out of Webb County. That's about 3 hours from where we're standing right now. So let's get to that video here where you can see this pursuit really unfolding here. The driver, this is Guillermo Oso Navarrete. He is an illegal immigrant from Mexico. He was actually driving through a neighborhood. You can see that's obviously a neighborhood which is extremely dangerous for everyone involved, including the officers, the migrants, and the community. So this guy runs a stop sign. He smashes right into a DPS special agent. That's who he hit. The illegal immigrants run from that vehicle. You see the troopers, they're scattering. They're trying to catch them all. The suspect resists arrest. He actually assaulted a Border Patrol agent in this altercation. So this crash right there, that was actually involving a special agent within DPS. So we just got this mugshot from Texas DPS of the driver. This is that guy Guillermo who was driving this vehicle. He was apprehended. He was charged with 3 counts of smuggling of persons, evading arrest, and assaulting a peace officer. 3 other illegal immigrants from Mexico. They were being smuggled in that vehicle, and they were turned over to Border Patrol. So believe it or not, Blake, this all comes in the same week that we just got some new numbers from apprehensions along the southern border, and they're pretty staggering, too. So DHS sources tell us that 835,000 people were encountered at the southern border in September. That is a little bit down from the month prior, and it's actually an all-time low for the Biden administration because look at February of 2021. That was the lowest number that they had actually seen when it comes to migrant encounters at the southern border. Obviously, we're seeing 5,000 fewer from August. So, of course, Blake, you can see those numbers. You saw the video. Cue the Wild West. Problems are still happening at the southern border, but we're still down here covering them. Blake.
Indeed you are. The best in the business on the southern border, Allie Bradley, live for us this evening in Eagle Pass. Allie, thank you. Over to North Carolina now, the state that both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are trying to win here in the final 18 days. It is one of the key 7 battleground states that will determine who wins the White House. And in western North Carolina, the western parts of that state, recovery efforts continue. 3 weeks after Hurricane Helene devastated parts of the mountainous region. Amid recovery, North Carolinians, though, are on day 2 of early voting all across that state. The first day surpassed 2020's record day 1 total, albeit barely, by nearly 5,000 votes. But questions still remain about voter accessibility in western North Carolina tonight and in the days to come. Joining us now is the Republican congressman from that area that was hit the hardest in the Asheville area and areas around it. He's Congressman Chuck Edwards, back with us here on the Hill this evening. Congressman, I appreciate you joining us. I know you got a lot more important things to do than talk to me, but there is a story to tell, and so thanks for being with us tonight. How are you all doing down there in the western part of your state?
Well, Hurricane Helene hit us 3 weeks ago today. We were devastated, but we're beginning to put the pieces back. There are some signs of normalcy for many folks. This is going to be a long recovery, however. We've had 95 deaths, 92 people are still missing, and many people have lost their home. But life's beginning to turn back to normal for an awful lot of people.
From folks who live through storms, it's piece by piece. We were just chatting during the break. You told me you're progressing, right? And that's how it goes after these storms. You just little by little. And one of the little by little, I guess you could say, is voting, the Democratic right that Americans have all across this country, including in your state. As you see it tonight, we saw across the state as a whole. In your area, are folks able to vote, make it to polling stations? What's the scene there?
Yeah, we will most certainly be voting. There was some thought about 2 weeks ago, that maybe folks would not get out and vote because we were in the middle of trying to put so many lives back together. Folks were trying to figure out where they were going to live, how they were going to feed their families, how they were going to heat their homes. But now that the voting season is upon us, we're coming to the realization there's a very important election ahead of us, and we have not forgotten what our lives was like the day before the storm.
You had put out a statement, sir, earlier this month about misinformation and using the storm for political purposes on both sides. You called out both sides. Where does that stand tonight in your area? And there's a letter that the Democrats put out today that said that they were concerned about potential involvement in propagating or amplifying the disinformation by foreign governments. Do you believe that to be real or possible at this point?
I've not found that to be the case. Early on, there was an awful lot of misinformation out there. Absurd stories like FEMA was stopping folks at guard posts and confiscating materials and sending folks back on their way. None of that was true, but it was getting so loud. Right. It was getting so often. I had to put out some sort of a statement to say, cool your jets, calm down. This is only getting in our way of our recovery.
Congressman Chuck Edwards, live for us tonight in North Carolina, again in Western North Carolina. Thank you for joining us. We wish you all the best. That progress after progress, right? And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You got it. All right. Meantime, it is one of the most expensive issues on the ballot this election, medical marijuana. So why are Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis on the opposite ends of this issue? And why were UFOs mentioned during the Nevada debate last night here on NewsNation? Plus, why one senator thinks Elon Musk maybe could get to the bottom of it. And live look in the state of Michigan. Donald Trump set to speak at the top of the hour. You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation. Thanks for being with us on this Friday night.
NewsNation Tonight, a special hour on Dan Abrams Live, the brothers who captivated the nation, new efforts to free them, and how renewed interest in the case might impact a second trial. Plus, a one-on-one with a juror who originally voted to acquit them. Tonight at 9/8 Central.
All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Among the most expensive ballot issues in the country involve states in which the legalization of recreational marijuana is on the ballot. Florida, one of those states with a ballot measure pushing to legalize the use of recreational marijuana for those 21 years and older. Now, as of right now, Florida would become, if it passes, the 25th state to legalize marijuana under Amendment 3. Now, while Donald Trump supports Florida's measure, he's a resident of Florida, and further supports the legalization of marijuana, Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, opposes it.
Amendment 3 is the recreational marijuana, which, first of all, look, different people have different views on that. I'm not for it. I don't think it's good to do.
The way they're doing it in Florida, I think, is going to be actually good. It's going to be very good, but it's got to be done in a good way.
NewsNation correspondent Brooke Schaefer with us now. Brooke, two obviously very different views there from those two.
Yeah, and Blake, we always talk about a lot of eyes on Florida come election season. That is definitely the case this time around as well. And this time, a lot of eyes on Florida when it comes to legalizing marijuana. This amendment on the ballot in just a few weeks would legalize recreational marijuana use for adults in the Sunshine State. Both sides of this issue so far have raised tens of millions of dollars. You've seen it become a talking point on the campaign trail. This issue of legalizing marijuana not only expected to drive Florida voters, but voters across the U.S. Blake, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, they have both campaigned on this issue. Mr. Trump has said that he would vote yes on this Florida amendment to legalize marijuana. He's included in a TV ad even that's playing right now in Florida. VP Harris, for her part, just this week unveiled new policy proposals in an outreach to black male voters, promising to legalize recreational marijuana. Her campaign saying that Harris aims to ensure black entrepreneurs have access to a new industry. Both Harris and Trump so far pledging marijuana reform. Now, Gallup polling over the last few decades has actually seen a pretty significant increase, Blake, in voter support for the legalization of marijuana. Around 12% of voters supported it in 1969. Now, 70% of voters in the U.S. say they are in favor of legalizing marijuana. Right now, about half of U.S. states allow recreational marijuana. Florida could join that list in just a few weeks. Blake?
Our Brooke Schaefer live for us tonight on this issue. Brooke, thank you. Last night, NewsNation put the important Nevada Senate race in the spotlight, airing the debate between the incumbent Democrat, Jackie Rosen, senator, and the newcomer on the Republican side, Sam Brown. Now, during the debate, the candidates were asked about UFOs. And here's what the challenger had to say. Watch.
I think I'm just as curious as anyone. I'd love to know what's going on. I never saw any sort of technology like that when I was in the service. I'm not sure I fully trust Congress, to be able to figure it out. Maybe Elon Musk can.
Joe Khalil joins us live. Joe, this is a question that would have never been brought up in a Senate debate at all had not NewsNation blown this story wide open and stayed on top of it with its reporting. Fascinating last night to hear it be talked about and what he said about Elon Musk.
Yeah, and kudos to the anchors for asking the question. You're right. We're in a different age now where this is a bit more mainstream. The Pentagon acknowledging that there are these things out there that are very real and we don't know what they are. I don't put much stock into the Elon Musk thing. I think maybe Sam Brown just referenced that because Elon Musk is the, quote unquote space guy and he's team GOP at this point. In reality, though, Congress is already doing these investigations, one in the House and in the Senate. We talk to the people pushing them all the time. The interesting thing is that the original question for these guys was not should Congress be looking into it, but the original question was, do you support more transparency? And I kind of wish that they were able to answer that question because those are two different things. We know that Congress is pushing for more answers up to and including Senator Chuck Schumer and Senator Mike Rounds, very high-ranking Republican and Democrat, wanting to get more answers, but they say that they keep hitting roadblocks with three-letter agencies. So that, I think, is a more interesting question, and I'm really interested to see if any Senate candidates get that question and answer it.
Yep. The alphabet soup of Washington, D.C., those three-letter agencies. Joe Khalil, live for us in Washington tonight. Joe, thank you. By the way, coming up this Sunday, Chris Stirewalt hosts The Hill Sunday on NewsNation. Chris will be talking to the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. He also will speak to Don Bacon, the congressman from the key district in Nebraska, a Republican. Chris Stirewalt, The Hill Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern. And make sure you tune in for Brian Enton's new special series, Driving the Vote. Brian's crossing the country to hear from voters nationwide. Brian's series begins 10 a.m. Eastern on The Hill Sunday, and also here on The Hill all of next week. Brian Enton on the show as he travels across the country. By the way, as America is split red and blue, as you know, this time around, this election, we say hello from our hill to yours to a couple towns where red and blue are in the name. We take you first to Red Hill. That is the home of the founding father, Patrick Henry, who originated the American rallying cry, "Give me liberty or give me death." Red Hill is located in Charlotte County in Virginia, which went red for Donald Trump in 2020. The former president received 61% of the vote there. We also say hello to the good folks in Blue Hill, Maine. Blue Hill is a small coastal town in Hancock County. In the 2020 election, that county went blue, with President Biden receiving nearly 55% of the vote there. So in these two cases, red and blue hold true to their names. Hello to the folks in and around those areas listening to us on SiriusXM and watching us here on NewsNation, from our hill to yours. Another look right now, live look in Detroit, where we expect Donald Trump to speak any moment now. The host of On Balance, Leland Vitter, joins me on the other side of the break. Stay with us. You're watching The Hill. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Two different live looks right now. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in the state of Michigan tonight. They both have had multiple events in that state throughout the day. Donald Trump expected to speak in the 7 o'clock Eastern hour. Vice President Kamala Harris expected to speak in the 8 o'clock Eastern hour. Host of On Balance, Leland Vitter, joins me live. You know, Leland, I can't help but think, as someone who lived for 4 years in the state of Michigan, and you've spent much more time than I have in that state. This is the best time of year in Michigan. The weather's great. Fall, leaves are changing, all that. And they've got two presidential candidates there today, and they are the heart of the race tonight.
Spoken like a guy who used to probably, go to Zingerman's Deli before some of the games in the big house?
I'm actually not a Zingerman's guy, believe it or not. I know that's blasphemous to say in Ann Arbor.
I always knew there was a reason I didn't trust you. I just didn't know what it was. But no, fall in Michigan is really extraordinary. I think what the biggest thing to watch in Michigan is how, like in much of the country, the electorate is changing, especially up north. You've had this huge influx. It's almost like in Florida of people, but it's now people sort of that are turning it blue. You have counties, Leelanau County, for example,